Wish TV is proud to honor teachers in Central Indiana
She is an inspiration to all of us.
He's always smiling.
who go above and beyond,
He's done so many things for so many people.
He's inspirational.
making a difference,
He's always taught me to believe in myself and never get down on myself.
Everybody's biggest cheerleader.
and deserving of recognition for their outstanding efforts in
I
education.
love the people that I work with, and to know that I've made an impact on somebody's life, it is truly a great honor.
It's an honor. I love what I do, and the kids are the ones who make it work. I'm like just so taken aback because I love them so much. The fact that, they love me just as much just means a lot. Sorry, you're going to have to cut that part out.
And you are our winner.
Oh, thank you so much.
From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Golden Apple Awards Podcast, presented by Hensley Legal Group.
Hi, Hannah Mordeau here. February's winner is Mr. Rick Wedlow. You heard all about him on the last podcast. He's a teacher in Lawrence Township who helps students get ready for life after graduation. He teaches the Avid program, and his motto is keep chopping wood. You kind of got some indicators from that maybe he has some coaching in his past. Well, he does. And to understand really how he got into teaching and his journey, I brought Mr. Wedlow back here on the podcast. Mr. Wedlow, welcome to the podcast. Good morning.
Good morning, Hannah. Thank you for having me on with you this morning.
Thank you for being here. Just for perspective for everyone listening, your story just aired this morning. So you're at school now. How are you feeling? What have you been hearing?
Well, it's been a good morning. Obviously when everything happened, we had to kind of keep it under wraps for a little bit, and we didn't want everybody to know about the experience that I enjoyed when you stopped by my classroom. And so, fortunately, for the most part, everything was kind of under wraps, and everything was kind of quiet. And then, I had a student. I guess actually, my tutor follows you and seen your pre-story. And then she kind of shared that. Then some kids started asking me stuff, and then I just tried to play crazy, like I'm not sure what you're talking about, But this morning, it was very nice to watch the story, and just see how well of a job you did putting the story together, and seeing the smiles on my students' faces, and all of the support from our administration, Dr. Smith. Our principal, Mr. Floyd, and Mr. Mims, and of course our students and staff. So it's been great.
It was really special getting to honestly go talk to your students before even meeting you and just hearing about you. They all have such a special connection with you. And that's what I really found was a lot of these kids have been with you for years. Tell me about how you work with kids and how you build that connection and why you do that.
Well, in our Avid program, it's a 4-year program. Some junior year students will have to miss a year with me due to either taking Indiana College Core, they're going the IB route, or they're taking the AP capstone route. And for sometimes it's difficult for some of our kids because they know that our classroom is their safe space. And so, starting out as freshmen, my role is basically to help our incoming 8th graders transition to freshmen, to high school students. So, each year the level of communication changes. The expectations is always the same. It's about the good habits and the essential skills that Avid stands for. And Avid is big on writing. It's big on inquiry. And we really talk about the different levels of thinking and thought processes. And we use a house, as our framework to how we get our kids to go to the next level of their thought processes. And then collaboration. 21st century skills of collaboration and being able to work in groups and small teams is a big deal today in our economic climate and in the workforce. And then organization is a piece that I wish that I would have had someone, um, share that process with me, especially when I was entering college. When you're young, you think you can remember everything you can keep on the top of your head, but it's always nice to have a planner or some type of an organizational structure. And then, our reading. Reading is a big part. So WICOR, WICOR, is basically the pillars of what we do in Avid. And each year we give them a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then as they become juniors and seniors, it becomes more student-led, student-driven. But for the most part, it's just the skills that come up with meeting students where they're at, meeting human beings where they are.
I had never heard of Avid actually before you won this award. And it seems like such a crucial program to maybe find some of these students that might not know how to get into college or what steps to take, and really lift them up through the process of high school. Is this a unique program to Lawrence North, or is this something that more and more schools have you found picking it up? Or tell me a little bit about the Avid program. I know you just told me, but a little bit more.
I believe Avid has been in our district. Avid has been in our district at least 15 years,
Yeah, for a
at
while.
least 15, almost 20 years. Um, and when you look at Avid, you can look at the three layer, you look at the top layer level of kids, and then you break it down to our middle kids. And then you split the middle kids in half, and Avid typically focuses on that bottom half, the kids with ability, kids that can read and write. They have a good enough foundation with factoring when it comes to math, doing mental math. And they're, they want to go to college. And so when students have those characteristics and traits, but they may not be confident to get up in front of people to speak. They may not do a very good job of keeping their lives organized. That turns to missing assignments, which means, you're getting a C or a B in a class, which should be an A. And so what we're trying to do is just identify some of those weaknesses that some of us have or we go through, and to make that weakness turn into a strength, so that we can just become complete packages.
Amazing. You have an interesting route into being an Avid teacher. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I told you a little bit
Yeah.
about probably the middle part, but I had an amazing run. Obviously, starting out, going way back, I was a high school state champion. With Gary Roosevelt, we had a great team. We were 30-1.
Wow.
We lost to Martinsville in the I remember losing to Martinsville in the Hall of Fame Classic down in Newcastle. And then I had a small opportunity to be a preferred walk-on at Purdue, because one of my best friends is Glenn Robinson, and then he and I were he shared a lot of that experience of his recruiting. He and I went to almost every home game at Purdue, starting junior year, senior year. And I got close to Coach Cady, Coach Kendrick, Coach Weber, Coach Stallings, a lot of people on that staff. And I just felt like I underdeveloped in high school. And so I'm like, I'm going to go to Earlham. So I went to Earlham because I wanted to play. And, I played for Earlham a few years. That experience was incredible for me, coming from, growing up across the streets from the projects, Story Miller, Gary, Indiana. When you get removed from of an environment and you see things different, you learn that people, no matter what part of the world that they are, we have more similarities than differences. And so that was probably one of the best eye-opening experiences. And so a few years later, Glenn is #1 pick in the NBA draft. And, we had a good circle network of friends. And, he allowed me to experience those, first few years of the NBA with him as his personal assistant. And so,
Wow.
I go from an Earlham college student at a little small liberal arts school in Richmond to Milwaukee. Every day I got NBA players in my home. Um, you know, when they're on the road trips, some guys, want me to go check on their homes and, make sure everything's going on at their places and things like that. And so you get connected with a lot of NBA guys. And so that experience was great. And then, I wasn't doing a good job. I went to Marquette University. I went to University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Wow.
And when you have so much going on in your life at that age, I wasn't focused on school.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
tried, I really tried, but you go to class, you come home, you got a bunch of NBA dudes sitting around playing the video games, and that's all we did. We have a bunch of NBA stars playing video games all day, just having
Well,
a good time.
and it's hard when you're, 18 and it's hard when you're hanging out with people and that's what they're doing, but your life's going a different direction and it's hard to focus
Yeah,
on school. So you're kind of living in your younger years
right.
what kids may in some realms be going through now.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then what happened from there? Because you tell me you ended up becoming one of the top RV salesmen.
So then I went back to Earlham. I graduated,
Okay.
and I had a couple of small jobs. I interviewed for a few jobs, when I graduated, and I was overqualified or not enough experience. And so
Wow.
I was a global business management major out of Earlham, and I couldn't find a job. So I did some tailor clothing with Dillard's, and then I went on to Tom Raper. I'm like, I'm gonna try something else, and I just dropped my application off, and they called me, and they brought me aboard. Tom Raper had a staff of 200 employees. It was a great company. It was the largest RV dealership in the country at that time. They had a great pay plan. They had great benefits, profit sharing, company match. And those are the things that I was exposed to at that time that I didn't have a clue about. Well, I
Yeah.
had a clue about, but when you're a young adult, you don't know how significant those things are, right?
What's a match? And you hear it and like, what is that? 401k.
Exactly. And so I went in and my goal was just to learn how to sell a pop-up. I had seen these little things going down the road, but I never knew what they were, right? And so you take this little guy from the inner city and now you're RV salesman. And so at the time, Tom Raper usually had about 25 salesmen, and I was the first black salesman that they ever had.
Wow.
And during my 9 years there, I was the only brother there. But again, when I went in, it was new, and but those guys showed me so much about selling RVs, and I went from pop-ups to trailers. I sold some fifth wheels, and then I remember my first gas motorhome customer. It was some customers that they came in, spoke to a salesman. The salesman did what we call pre-qualify, when you kind of have a short conversation, ask a couple questions, and you assume that they're not going to buy.
Hmm.
Because at Tom Raper on I-70, we had customers that were coming from their West Coast summer trips and camping and
Hmm.
Yellowstone and everywhere. And they would come in with their defense up, like, look, hey, we've seen all the signs. We just want to stop by and
Check
check it
things out.
out.
Yeah.
Me, I'm like, okay, I've heard that before. As you stay in the business, it's like you know that before. But anyway, the salesman dropped those customers, just left them on the lot.
Hmm.
And so I'm just kind of riding around on my golf cart. We had 60 acres of complex. So we
Wow.
had a golf carts where we had to go out and study inventory every morning. There's new trades, there's new product coming in. And so I run into these folks, and I had never sold a motor home. And what I realized, that the motor home was basically a trailer on a chassis, right? And so I wasn't comfortable talking about chassis talk. I wasn't comfortable talking about engine and transmission stuff, but I was good at construction, and I was good at making a friend quickly. That was the key. When you learn how to make a friend quickly, you learn how to ask good questions, appropriate questions. And I learned that one of the key traits to being a good communicator was close your mouth, and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned to listen I listened to what these folks told me, and they were basically saying, look, we want to trade our fifth wheel. We want to drive. We want to drive. We want a motorhome. We want a gas motorhome because we want a certain budget. So they had a certain budget. They gave me an idea of the type of camping that they enjoy. They like going to racetracks. They like going to national parks and things like that. And so I was able to kind of put it all together. And fortunately, we had a product that was on the lot for a while, and they put a spiff on it. So a spiff is basically, if you sell the RV at cost, you're still going to make $2,500, right?
Okay.
And so I knew I had this product for them, and I didn't take them to that one first. I took them to a couple others first, but I knew where I was going with it, right? And so I took them to that RV, and they ended up buying. It was my first gas motorhome sale. And then that gave me the confidence to continue to pursuing it, because I was questioning my abilities for a while. But then, I started learning the diesel product and chassis, and I developed a customer base. And after about 4 or 5 years, I went from the bottom half of the end of the year numbers to the top half, and to top 10, and then around the top 5. And then that's where my respect come from my team, is that they knew that I just came in every day. I didn't miss work. I was a quick learner. And there was a philosophy of Tom Raper that if you were negative, like if there was negative energy, if things got back to management, that you were complaining and being critical of certain things, they will walk you out, right?
Wow.
And so early on, I learned that in any company, any organization, if it's nothing positive to say, you just close your mouth and put your head down and work. And so that experience from Tom Raper taught me that people buy from who they like, trust, and respect, right? And then moving fast forward it 10 years later, students learn from people they like,
Yeah.
right? And
And
so go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, and as we were watching your story this morning, my coworker goes, he's got to be a coach. I feel like it kind of plays into your basketball background too. Like
Yeah.
you have, from your experience, basketball as a student, and then that interesting NBA side work that you did into now being an RV salesman, the relationship, it has all kind of played in perfectly to this role that you have now with reaching students.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, that experience selling RVs was great. But again, I just learned how to meet people where they were. I remember I had a farmer, one of my farmer friends, that he would come in once every couple weeks and look at 250,000 plus RVs. And I remember asking him, was he interested in financing? And he said, let me tell you something, Rick. If I like it, if my wife like it, I'll pay cash. And so from that day, I learned to never ask a farmer about financing anything, right? And so it's little small things like that you learn about different cultures. And so I had a bunch of folks from the rural areas that surprisingly they loved me and they did a lot of business with me. And so that gave me confidence to feel like I could talk to anybody, I can connect to any human being. And that's another thing that carried me a long way. And then, after selling the RVs, you remember the market crashed in 2008,
Yeah, yeah.
2009.
The hard 2008 and 9 were really
Yeah,
tough
yeah.
financial
And
years.
so I had a deal where I had spent a lot of time with these customers, a couple of months on designing an RV. They wanted certain Corian countertops, they wanted a certain marble flooring, they wanted a fireplace to come from behind the TV and all that stuff, and spent a lot of significant time building this RV. And so we get the deal. They were previous customers. They were trading an RV worth about 250 grand.
Wow.
They were moving up to something but $600,000. And so we get the deal. They put 25,000 down, and then May 1st, I get a call. They're supposed to build this RV May 5th. I get a call that the company is going out of business. So I lost that deal. It's going to be a big deal for for our company, for me. My pay was going to be a nice pay. And then a couple weeks later, I kind of bailed out. I'm like, I'm done because the market. And so I thought recession proof, education, healthcare, right? And so I looked around at some healthcare stuff, didn't really find the right fit. And then I went and got a job being a substitute teacher. A friend of mine had a person, he ran a charter school. He had a person that ran family engagement. So he brought me in to do family engagement. And so I would do things like cook breakfast for all the parents and staff before school, had bowling nights and things like that. So my creative hat on how to integrate staff and students came about. Did that for about 3 months. And then Richmond High School approached me about a dropout prevention grant that they were awarded through the Lilly Fund. And then they hired me as a dropout prevention coordinator. And so that's where my experience started with at risk. I did that for 3 or 4 years, moved on to be the assistant director of career education at Richmond High School. And then I was honored with the opportunity to be the head basketball coach. And so I was the head basketball coach. I was assistant for 4 years, 5 years. I did freshman a year, JV 2 years. And the first year he brought me up to be his top assistant. We won our first sectional in 16 years. Wow. And we lost to that really good Indy Tech team with Trey Lyles. We lost to that team in a regional, a tough game. And then the next year we came back, we won sectional, regional, lost in the semi-state the game before the finals. And then that coach moved on, and I was the head coach for 4 years. That was great. But then, it was real hard on my family when things don't go well with your team. And you have folks on, social media, talking about your dad, talking about your husband. It's hard on your family. And for me, it was just just one of them experience where it's like, well, maybe, the Lord want me to do something else. Right. And so I pursued personal, professional growth, came to Indianapolis, moved out to the Cumberland area, and I came in as the dean of students here. And so I was on the discipline, the consequential side. But along that route, I always had a restorative approach with students in terms of, I know you made this bad choice, but I had to understand the why. And so that part of that experience, helped me understand that there's a reason why students behave certain ways and don't just be on the consequential so quick. And so that part, helped me probably be recommended to be an Avid teacher. And it's kind of taken off from there. And this is probably this is the most gratifying work that I've ever done.
That's amazing.
Sorry to be so long-winded.
No, it's so interesting hearing your story, though. It is so unique and different, honestly, than a lot of stories of educators that we hear. Do you tell the kids kind of about your past? Does that help you relate to them?
I give them different pieces and parts. I may not run it, at the beginning of the year when my incoming freshman, I always let them know that, coming from a single parent home, I didn't have a man in my life. Sports kept me involved, out of trouble. And then I do share my unique testimony, because I feel like I have a testimony that can touch somebody. It may not touch everyone, but I know there are a lot of people that grow up that are good human beings, and they're missing that male figure in their life. And then there are folks that just miss that mentor in their life. And then there are people, family is not the same, like we talked about before. I remember my aunts and uncles picking me up and taking me to the movies, taking me for some pizza or Dairy Queen, and family structure isn't the same. And so, the unk deal just kind of comes along from, a lot of our kids, they have, mom and dad with dysfunction in families, maybe mom and dad doesn't speak to brothers and sisters. And so that void is there. And there's some conversations that you just can't have with mom and dad and grandma and grandpa. And so the unk is usually that little safe space where you can have those conversations, and they're real, and it's not about the uncle telling you what to do. It's just being able to get some things off your chest to share, to share with someone that cares about you. And so that's part of why I am who I am.
I mean, I felt that talking to the kids. It just was like the fact that you're real with them, but also help them through these hard things. Like Belinda was like, I was like, what specifically? He's like, and she was like, he helps me navigate life, which is such a cool thing that you get to do that for these kids, but so essential too. And I think sometimes in this day and age, we miss human to human interaction. And it seems like, and it feels like you bring that home in your classroom.
Yeah. Our Avid program, each class is its own family. Each class, each group of students, we create a different culture. In the culture, the most important things in those cultures that is healthy communication, positive vibes. I'm all about positive vibes, positive energy. I don't allow negative energies. Now, do we all have bad days? Of course. We have bad days where our energy is off. Maybe we couldn't sleep at night, and we didn't get the rest we wanted. We got bad news in the morning before school. But I just want my class to be that safe space. Even when you're having those days, you'll get the grace and mercy you deserve to have a bad day. But no, the next day we're going to bounce back and make it a better day.
Amazing. Well, Mr. Wedlow, I think we'll leave it there. That's such a motivation. I think for anyone listening, you're a motivation just with your story is so unique, and the work that you're doing is so remarkable. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk this morning and for sharing your story.
Hannah, this has been a truly humbling experience. It's definitely something that creates a different type of motivation and edge for me to continue to grow as an educator, as a son, as a father, as a mentor, as a friend. And so these are the things that you have to take a step back and realize your blessings and your gifts, and just to continue to honor God and use those gifts and talents that you're blessed with to just try to make your little difference in the world.
You're making a big difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Mr. Wedlow, there is no doubt you will be shaping students' lives for years to come. Congratulations. From Wish TV, I'm Hannah Mordeau. We're going to continue honoring teachers and educators in Central Indiana who go above and beyond to shape students and change lives. So if you have a teacher who deserves to be nominated, please tell us all about them. Just go to wishtv.com/goldenapple. Then listen here to see who our next winner is on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The Wish TV Golden Apple Awards are presented by Hensley Legal Group. Nominate a teacher and learn more at wishtv.com now. Be sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast and discover even more great podcasts now on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.